Runners, are you ready? The 48th Annual Lincoln Marathon takes over the streets on Sunday, May 4th. Whether you're chasing a personal best, conquering your first race, or just in it for the bragging rights, this race is for you. Sign up for the full or half marathon today at lincolnmarathon.org, but don't wait, spots are filling fast. Join thousands of runners or line up along the course to cheer them on and make race day unforgettable. The Lincoln Marathon and Half Marathon, your finish line is waiting. Register now at lincolnmarathon.org.
Cinco de Mayo is May 5th, but the party starts early this year at Tipsy Tina's Taco Cantina with their street festival on Saturday, May 3rd. Come down to 8th and Q starting at 1 p.m. on May 3rd and see llamas from Sweet and Sassy's Llama Farm until 4 p.m. and enjoy face painting and balloon animals with Miss Shades at 2 p.m. DJ Wyatt will entertain from 6 to 10:30 p.m. There will be drinks, food, and giveaways, and best of all, no cover charge. It's the early Cinco de Mayo Street Festival with Tipsy Tina's Taco Cantina, Saturday, May 3rd, beginning at 1 p.m. at 8th and Q in the Haymarket.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law Group and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group. Trial attorneys you can trust.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road, just south of 14th and Highway 2.
The NFL Draft starts tonight, and the best place to watch it in Lincoln is at Liquid Assets Sports Bar and Grill at 27th and Jamie Lane. Watch all the picks on any of their 30 TVs while enjoying a beer from one of their 23 taps or high-end bourbon and spirits. Try their delicious wings or handheld sandwiches like the Turkey Melt, Liquid Gold Hamburger, or the brand new Chocolate Chip Cookie Skillet for dessert. There's only one place to watch the NFL Draft in Lincoln. That's Liquid Assets Sports Bar and Grill at 2755 Jamie Lane.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Old School, sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What up? Happy Thursday. Jay Foreman, Austin Orman, Old School, the New School Way. We are brought to you by the Mercado, Certified Piedmontese, Special Greets and Butcher Shop, 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, 85th and Old Cheney / Andromat, and 168th and Maple up there in the O. It is draft night, or the first of the journey. Long 3 days. A lot going on, obviously, in the NFL, and obviously we got the Husker games this weekend. And so the Husker fans are, definitely going to be entertained not only tonight. Hopefully, one tie could sneak up into the first round, most likely tomorrow. And then on the Saturday should be a run on some players. As far as getting drafted anywhere from the 4th to 7th round. But it is draft night. It seems like forever ago that Nebraska, finished their season. Then you go through the bowl games and then the All-Star games, then the combine. And then you just don't have any steam, and then they're like, oh, now we got a draft. And they're doing it up in Green Bay, so hopefully the weather's good, and I think Ahman Green's up there. And now all the talking's done. Now the only thing that matters when you know that's going to talk is like who you draft. And it's a hard process to go through. I always say this, getting drafted, everybody wants to get drafted in the first round. There's only 32 guys going to go, period. There's going to be in this draft, there's going to be about 40 or 50 guys that get drafted way lower than they should. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be about the same amount of guys, or even more, higher, I think a higher number, that are going to get drafted higher than they should. And so what you have to do is you got to understand that, it's hard to do in the moment. You have to go all the way back to when you first started this journey of football and had aspirations to go to the NFL. And would you be happy, or would you, be more than elated with getting drafted, period? And the most likely the answer is yes. Now, it's not fair when the draft is just like life is not fair, and sometimes you slip in the draft, and it's all about what you do with it, and some of it's not even in your control. And I think a lot of the times there's always one or two players that are, let's say, guinea pigs, or are just fed to the fire, the frenzy to create drama, and whether Shador Sanders or the receiver out of Texas, which is a little bit on his own, or something like that. I mean, you had Laramie Tunsil with the legendary gas mask. I mean, I would yes, and all from a frat party from years prior, based on a family member wanted some money, and then he, it slipped in the draft. He was drafted, and ended up he's probably behind Trent Williams, the second best offense or left tackle, top 5 in the league. So,
and yet the Texans traded him away.
Well, I think he was the only tradable asset besides C.J. Stroud on the offense. Nico Collins.
I was gonna say,
but you're not giving away C.J. Stroud,
right?
And you're forecasting. Free agency and everything will let you know what your team is going to draft. So all the talk is stupid.
Yeah.
The Texans got to draft a linemen. Yeah. Because you just traded away your left tackle. A couple of guys you drafted in the prior years are busts, and like Green and those guys.
Yeah.
So you have to protect your most valuable asset, which is C.J. Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
You can't draft a running back. You don't need to. You can't draft a receiver.
Not early.
Right, early.
Yeah.
You can't. Mm-hmm. You talk about noise. They'd be banging they'd be banging on the front door to get you out of here. The problem is that where the Texans are in the draft, you might not be able to pick the guy that you want. So now you're going to try to, accumulate some assets, which they made a, kind of sneaky trade earlier. Right now, you're at 25th, and if you look at Yates from ESPN, his Josh Cornerly Jr. is going to be the guy that you're going to pencil in, or hopefully be able to pin in year 2 to take over for Laramie Tunsil. Now they got Cam Robinson, who they know because he's a former Jacksonville Jaguars first-round pick who resurrected his career with the Vikings, as I'm reading here. But if you got to take an offensive tackle, or if there's a guard that's just outstanding. But right now, you need a tackle.
I'm glad you bring that up. Hoff from Lincoln asks, Austin, who do you think the Colts will take in the first round this year? I don't know. There's been so much chatter about tight ends, right? I mean, the Colts have the least tight end production in the NFL last year. And I think over the last 5 years, it's been pretty bad, even including the Jack Doyle tenure. And Jay, this is where I'm going to be really curious to see just how much noise gets into the Colts building, because they said the same thing. They have only 12 guys with first round grades on them. And there's 30 picks, and the Colts are picking 14th, which tells you that more likely than not, the guys the Colts think are worthy of a first round pick are going to be gone. Now, could Tyler Warren fall that far? Would I be mad if the Colts took him
at 14?
At 14,
that'd be a value pick.
Be a pretty good value pick.
That'd be a great value pick.
Could Colston Loveland fall to 14? Could he be available?
That'd be right where you think you need him.
You would think,
and you wouldn't bat.
Or do the
Mason
Colts
Taylor.
do what the Colts have always done? Do they go with a Tate Ratledge from Georgia, who's played interior offensive line his entire career? They lose Will Fries and Ryan Kelly to Minnesota. Do they go with a guard in the first round? Worked out pretty well for him a handful of years ago with Quentin Nelson, who's on the Hall of Fame track as an interior offensive lineman. Do they go with a Ratledge or another guy that they think could slide inside? And then to your point, do they try to get a Gunnar Helm, a Mason Taylor, a Harold Fannin Jr. in the second, third, fourth round? It does seem like it's a pretty deep tight end draft, all things considered. You don't want to miss on a superstar. You don't want to miss on a slam dunk guy, but you also have more than one need, more than one hole if you're Indy. So I would not be shocked if Chris Ballard stays completely on brand, takes an offensive lineman in the first round, maybe even trades down if he thinks this guy is going to be available. Because right now the Colts have one pick in every round. They're not a free agent destination, and they're not crazy traders. So the Colts have to maximize the draft, and they've typically done that by sticking true to their board, taking the quote-unquote value pick when it's available, and if their guy or their guys aren't there, they will trade down. That's what I still think is most likely for Indy tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have the options to probably get Cleveland, or Loveland, excuse me.
yeah.
And he'd be right there at 14. I mean, I think he's more explosive than Morton. I think he gives you just as good in blocking. I think he's probably a better route runner.
He's a truer tight end.
But he's a problem.
He's good.
If you don't take him at 14 and don't want to, you think that's a little too rich for your blood, I could see them taking Gray Zabel, the guard from North Dakota State. I think he's he's a redhead dude that went into the Senior Bowl and essentially probably was a Senior Bowl MVP. I mean, he really made himself a lot of money.
Sounds like Seattle's in on him as well, but Colts are 4 picks ahead of him.
Right, but that's a guy that you know you can plug and play to go with Quentin Nelson. And if you want to build an offensive line, it's inside out. You feel pretty good that you can find a center or or free agency as center, and then now you have the built-in excuse that we're trying to protect Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, and then you could possibly, even though you don't have a lot of picks, if you could possibly trade a player that kind of a rotational player with a pick to get a Mason Taylor or somebody like that, then you're like, okay, we're good. We're getting. I think Mason Taylor has his first round because he's the best athlete out of all of them, and his pedigree is second to none, and he has the most upside. So if you get him in the second round, high second round, now you're like, well, he has first round talent.
Feel the need and more bites at the apple.
He feels the need, and you're getting rid of some salary cap if you trade a player, or if you just trade up for future picks, you're fine.
Just saw this from Ian Rappaport. Among the teams open to or discussing moving up, Broncos, Jaguars at 5, Houston
moving up to 5, or just moving
just
up
moving up somewhere.
Yeah, because the Houston's for offensive linemen.
Yeah,
Jaguars going up is interesting because they don't need a quarterback. They could possibly trying to get Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you don't need Abdul Carter because you got two dudes that they're really good that you picked. And so the other guy in the top 4, maybe you want Will Campbell, but is Will Campbell that good? I think he's really good, but I don't know if he's that good that where you're like trading.
We have to trade up to get him.
And it's not. They're at 5. Right.
Campbell could very well fall to them at 5.
Right.
But now the wild card for that is Vrabel. How does Vrabel want to build New England back up? Does he think?
Yeah, but if you trade up to New England, you're only going on 1 pick. So it's Will Campbell then, because you're not going to try to get. It's either Will Campbell, and if you go up to 2 with Cleveland, that's got to be Travis Hunter. Because you're not getting that. You're not going to. Why would you draft Abdul Carter?
Right.
And what's the other team that wants to move up?
Denver.
Now that's interesting because Denver played well last year, but they still need they're a team that needs tight end help. But they need wide receiver help too, right? Where you're seeing here what they need is wide receiver help. So they also been kind of connected to Amarian Hampton in the first round. Now he's definitely first round talent. I got him right behind Ashton Genty. He could fall to the second round. So I don't think there were, according to ESPN, they haven't taken Matthew Golden. I think he cost himself a lot of money. So now you're thinking like, okay, wide receiver, maybe offensive lineman. I think I think they led the league in sacks last year. But primarily for outside guys. Now inside, you see them go up a few picks, get Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Sean Payton loves offensive linemen. They could get the Ed from Mike Green, who's a guy that fits Sean Payton's kind of smaller college type of guy that's really productive, really had a really good Senior Bowl. They could maybe move up to 14 with the Colts and get Colston Loveland.
I can see it.
And Sean Payton loves tight ends. I don't think that they would go up and take a corner. You already invested in that.
Yeah.
McMillan from Arizona. Big body receiver. That kind of fits Sean Payton. I don't know, man. It's But I could also see Sean Payton moving up there and trying to get making sure they guarantee to get Tyler Warren.
I could see it.
I think if Sean Payton is going to make a move, he's going to go big. That's just him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he would do it unless they're trying to get an offensive lineman. That just seems like that'd be just a stupid move. But I mean, the draft is well on its way, and I think most of the
speaking of Sean Payton, sorry, before you move off, obviously Sean Payton best known for his tenure in New Orleans, right? Warren Sharp tweeted this yesterday, and I'm glad you have a chance to bring it up here. He says, "This is insane. The last time that Saints general manager Mickey Loomis traded down in the NFL draft, the iPhone wasn't invented. Mickey Loomis has not traded down in the draft once since 2007. 27 trade ups, 0 trade downs.
They're gambling.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Woo!
All in every time. But him and Sean Payton and that's the type of mentality he's bringing to Denver. He's pulling the strings. And
Something to keep in mind.
Yeah, why would you trade down? You already got a good team. You know, you need to accumulate assets. You got to trade up. They're trying to get a player. I mean, heck, he believed in Bo Nix when nobody believed in him. He said he thought Bo Nix was the best quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's better than what everybody projected. And under Sean Payton's tutelage, it's worked out. So you got to trust that he's been able to do a lot of things, both in early in the draft and late in the draft. So they're bringing that same type of mentality, man. And a lot of times I think teams have their board set right now. And if I was, a GM, I'd have my board set or idea of, say I'm picking number 9 or whatever as the Saints. You have about 3 or 4 boards that would, everybody knows who number 1 is. Cam Ward. Okay, so that's so then you try to say, okay, try to predict the trades and who's going to trade what and who's more of a team that's going to maybe risk more in those first 5 picks, because the way that could affect you, because if you have your eyes set on a tight end and 2 tight ends go, then you might trade down, or you might just go to number 1 at another position, and it might just be the best available. Like, you can't pass up a Michael Williams. You don't necessarily need an edge. You do, no. But then you're like, okay, well, Derek Carr's injuries, we don't even know we have a quarterback now. Now, do we try to make an interdivision trade and get Kirk Cousins? Or we say, you know what? We really like Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart. We're going to trade down to 15 and we're going to get whoever's still there.
Yeah.
And that's all based on what happened before. Also, the big thing right now is the personality of the coaches and the GMs come out in their decisions, and the owners too.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it, because they're not. This is what they live for. They love. The funny thing about the owners is they love getting interviewed when something happens more than when the players get drafted. I mean, the players.
No, I believe it.
It's a different type of. It's a different type of motivation. The players is the ultimate goal, right? And obviously tonight to be able to be a first round pick and to get drafted, be a first round pick. The owners and the GMs, they like to talk about, because it makes them seem every pick is going to work out, and the pick and everything that they've given up is either the best trade or they got the most value for the assets that they've given up, and they want to seem a lot smarter than they actually are. So I mean, I don't know. It's I think the first 4 picks are pretty safe.
Yeah.
Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and obviously Cam Ward. Then after that, it's a crapshoot. I mean, Ashton Jeanty is a real deal.
Brad wants him to Dallas. I don't know if he falls that far.
Okay, so Jacksonville.
Chicago sounds like they want him.
But Jacksonville has a new coach who's a former quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. He's either picking running back or receiver.
Heard Ted McMillan for them potentially.
Right. Now, that would be more of a trade down. Number 5 would be a little bit too rich for their blood. I can't see them picking anything besides the skill position. I don't see them picking a lineman. That ain't like sexy enough. At 5.
Might be smart, but not sexy.
So it's got to be Ashton Jeanty. He's got Florida ties. Obviously, comes from a family we're serving overseas, but this is deep. It's a deep running back draft. I think it's topsy turvy from there. You got the Raiders. I'm looking at another one. They either got the tackle out of Missouri. They're not going to take a tight end because they got one of the best. They're not going to take linebackers. They're good.
Yeah, and the Raiders have been doing some weird tweeting right now. Pete Carroll's tweeting some stuff out. He tweeted out a Fresh Prince GIF that makes people think, oh, Banks family, Kelvin Banks from Texas. Pete Carroll 10 minutes ago tweeted a standoff scene, the scene from The Office where it's Michael, Dwight, and Andy with the finger guns to each other. Someone saying, oh, that's standoff, Ashton Genty's standing stance. So the Raiders are just trying to throw everyone off right now.
That lets you know they don't know what they're doing yet. In one meeting,
shocker.
In one meeting, they might have won Banks. The other one, they might have won Ashton Genty, and they don't know what they're going to do. I don't think a lot of these teams know exactly what they're going to do until they do it. You've seen it where they have two guys on the phone and they draft player A and call it, hey man, sorry, we picked so-and-so.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. And sometimes you think you have the power to make the pick. Then the owner comes in and said, I want you to make this pick. That's how Bryce Young ends up in Carolina and CJ Stroud ends up in Houston.
Right?
Because the quarterback
and Anthony Richardson ends up in Indianapolis.
The quarterback coach and the head coach wanted CJ Stroud. The owner wanted Bryce Young. The owner won out. Not only did the owner get his pick, he fired the coach and the offensive coordinator. You get up out of here.
And they were wrong.
Yeah, and they were wrong. Now, I think Bryce Young started to play well.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why they started to really give him a realistic chance, right, is because he started to actually show some life, but then more importantly, projection of the draft coming up. Because if they would have benched him, now you look bad. Essentially, it's the Cleveland Browns again, because we talk about Whedon and Johnny Manziel and all that. You got to be willing to deal with that noise. And the owner right now is not very well liked down there. So that's even more stress on him. Or do you say, you know what, let's give him a prove it year and try to improve the assets around him?
Yeah.
And that's going to be hard for Carolina to do at number 8 because they've been from the very beginning, they've been projected to take defense.
Yeah.
They need offense.
They do.
They don't have a number 1 receiver.
And you need AMI.
I do. Because my man is here.
Dr. Finn.
Dr. Finn.
In the building.
Yeah, he's going to give us a lot of knowledge too, so it was good to draft. We get to talk about some stuff, some peptides.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How about that?
Help you recover a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about some different injuries, rate of recovery. But either way, Jay Foreman, Austin Norman, got Dr. Finn from AMI coming in. Old School, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Get ready for the largest dirt late model event in Nebraska, race fans. The Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series is heading to Eagle Raceway's High Bank Heist on Thursday, May 15th through Saturday, May 17th. See the greatest dirt late model stars in the country compete for $10,000 to win on both Thursday and Friday, and an enormous $50,000 to win 75-lap main event on Saturday. The High Bank Heist, May 15th through May 17th at Eagle Raceway. For more info, visit eagleraceway.com. Let's go Lucas Oil Late Model Racing. Eagle Raceway, just 10 miles east of Lincoln on O Street.
Constructors is now hiring for all positions with pay starting at $23 and up based on experience. Constructors has immediate job openings for mechanics, bridge builders, operators, and drivers. Start your new career today. Constructors offers great pay, health, dental, and vision insurance, paid time off, paid holidays, and so much more. Join the crew today and be a part of Nebraska's oldest paving company dating back to 1908. For a complete list of openings and to apply online, visit constructorslincoln.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC in Louisville. Has experienced hail damage, and there's never been a better time to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle. The hail was very spotty, some pretty light, others heavier, but there are huge discounts right now happening at Koppel. So please do not wait. Get thousands of additional discounts along with 0% APR. There will be a lot of people heading this way to purchase vehicles. So stop on in or check us out online at koppelcars.com. All deals with approved credit.
Garage doors can break down or quit working at the worst times. At Doors Plus, they understand that a broken garage door sometimes means repair and not replace. Sometimes all you need to make your door like new again is a few bolts, a realignment, or even a new balance. Trust the pros at Doors Plus to handle your garage door repair the right way so you can get on with your busy schedule. Visit them online at DoorsPlusLLC.com or give them a call today at 402-590-5800. Doors Plus, garage doors and more.
Load up on meat and more this spring at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese with great selections of T-bones, tomahawks, ribeyes, filet mignon, brisket, sirloin, and so much more. The Mercado has locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, where you can have $2 draft beer every Thursday night from 4 to 8 p.m. and half-price espresso drinks on Fridays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help you get the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Call the trial attorneys you can trust. 877-42-LIBERTY.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road, just south of 14th and Highway 2.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What up, Jay Foreman, Austin Orman, Old School. That was good. We got a special guest. Got my man, Dr. Finn, sitting in, but from AMI. Dr. Finn's going to give us some knowledge on stuff, and we will talk about MRIs just because of the dyes and stuff. But more importantly,
You had one or two of those in your time, Jay?
I have, and I got to get some more too. So I'm glad he's here. So now I can just, I guess, go around any of the calling in. So this is what I need. And then I'll just be over there. It's like I get to spend the day over there. But obviously the big news was Gilbert Arenas' son. And he's in, I guess the technical term is in medically induced coma.
Yep.
Because of heat and smoke, inhaling too much smoke from sounds like a one-car accident in a Cybertruck. So for our listeners out there, give us the reason why you medically induce a young, strong athlete like that and the benefits of it. Because, when people just hear it like, oh, man, he's just, he get knocked out and he's asleep forever. So talk about the reasons and why you have to do it based on this accident and I guess his potential injuries from the accident.
Yeah. I looked up that story and all they say online is he's in a coma. But for that, you think, well, did he get knocked out and he just hasn't woken up? But if it's for smoke inhalation, what happens is the lungs get damaged. It gets really hard to breathe. And more importantly, it gets really hard to just transfer oxygen into your body because the tissue is damaged. And so usually you have to intubate the patient, which means putting a a tube into your windpipe and having a machine breathe for you and then supply extra oxygen more than you can get in normal air. And you can't breathe on your own when a machine's pushing against you.
Mhm.
And so you have to go into a medically induced coma. So that's pretty standard. For a young, healthy guy like that, the problem is coming off of those ventilators, because anytime you stop using your muscles, they atrophy. And that's no different for your diaphragm and your breathing muscles. But for somebody like that, I'd expect him to come off of it pretty well. Just depends on the degree of damage to the lungs, and that would be a function of the heat and the whatever pollutants in the smoke.
Right.
You know, because those if that was a Cybertruck, then those battery fires, they burn really hot. That's more than just burning plastic and seat cushions from I hate to call it a normal car fire, but
then like a Chevy or something. Like
yeah, it's more. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, for him, and I think it's fortunate where they said he didn't have any other bodily injury. So it's really, I guess, is it better? Exactly what you have to attack versus, broken leg and all that, where you're thinking about, okay, we got to get his lungs back right before we can go in and put him under anesthesia for surgery. Now you're just like, okay, this is what you can focus on. I guess you wouldn't know, obviously, unless you were there. What's the normal recovery from a high level, phenomenally, obviously in shape athlete? Is the recovery time less generally? Obviously, it's all assumption and guesstimation. What's the normal recovery time for something like that?
That all depends on the severity of the injury. But if you take an NBA caliber athlete and compare them to, say, a 75-year-old, the athlete's going to come out better every time.
Sure.
The lungs are so important. Kind of an analogy here would be when you hear about people getting pneumonia in older ages, and that can be fatal sometimes.
Yeah.
That's because the lungs are not able to provide enough oxygen to somebody who has a weak heart.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the body starts failing one at a time.
Yeah.
One organ system at a time. So for somebody who's otherwise 100%, more than 100% healthy,
right,
as long as he can get his lungs back in shape, he should be good. And the lungs are pretty forgiving. You can take a lobe out, you can function on one lung, you can have severe pulmonary infections, COVID, all those things. A little part can scar down, and you can still get along real well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, obviously, everybody's wishing the best, just because it's unfortunate. And like I mentioned before, MRIs, obviously, AMI does a really good job of taking care of me, but they also take care of everybody else that I send over there as well. But the one thing that is really interesting to me, and I remember when I first hurt my neck in Houston. And I had a wide variety of stingers, some that okay, I got to kind of play coy for a play or two. But this one was really bad, and I went and obviously had an MRI, and they shot dye into my body to really get a better, I guess, view or understanding of the injuries and make sure they didn't miss anything, which is really good. Obviously, it helps out. But talk about the difference between you go in there and have an MRI, just a regular one, which is obviously very, very informative, versus when you use the dye, how you can find things that maybe you normally wouldn't see. And is that based on maybe the structure of your body? Say you're looking for like a tear in the deltoid or there's so many muscles, under muscles or something like that, or a tendon that's maybe hit under, mass or something like that. Is that what the dye is for, to maybe bring some of that to light? Or is it just something that you have to request to get the whole picture?
Yeah, no, you don't need it on every exam. And like you mentioned, most of our exams, you don't need the dye, and the images are just fine. You can make the diagnosis perfectly. The reason why you might give it is to see a couple things. How much blood is going to that area, and are there leaky vessels in that area? So The way it's done is right before your scan, you start an IV, just like the one you get in a hospital, and then you inject it's a real small amount of fluid, maybe 10 cc's or so, and that circulates through your body, and anything that has a lot of blood flow or vascularity is going to pick up that dye. It's going to glow like, excuse me, like a highlighter.
Right.
So things that have a lot of blood flow to them, like a tumor, cancer, is really important that you can see those well and define them. So you're always going to want to have that for those sorts of things. Infections, I'm thinking like Deion Sanders. Didn't he have leg infections, bone infections?
Yeah, in his foot, and eventually had one or two toes. Yeah, they say he has 8 now, so yeah, he had a couple toes amputated. But that was all based off of like turf toe. That obviously just seemed to get infected over time. Maybe wasn't originally taken care of, and would diet maybe help that originally, because obviously it's an injury that affected pretty much ended his career. And when you have to use your feet, that's the most important thing you have. Is that something like if he would have got an MRI with the dye, they could have diagnosed the ending problem early?
I'm sure they did. But that would have helped, or I'm sure that did help define the extent of the infection within the bone. So those are things you can't see without the dye. Also important is what doesn't light up with contrast. So you might have, a little palpable bump on your shoulder or somewhere in your body, and you get a scan. It may not be a tumor. It might just be a fluid collection.
Yeah.
Well, fluid collection doesn't have any blood flow going inside of it, so there's going to be no enhancement. So that's really informative to say that there's no blood flow to it, so we can leave it alone. We can drain it if we need to. But that gives us one more clue. But there's another way to actually give this dye, and it's not through your veins, but directly into a joint. And this applies to athletes more, and I do this from time to time. So things like labral tears, really small. You can see them without contrast, but if you want, if you got a NFL caliber athlete coming in, and you got to know, or hey, it's draft time, and I'll tell you, these pros, they get scans.
Yeah.
I worked in Kansas City for my training, and the Royals would send in prospects to get scans of their elbow and their shoulder, pictures and stuff. So you put a small amount of dye into the joint, and what happens is that fluid, if there's a tiny labral tear that's less than a millimeter in size, that fluid's going to go inside of the little crack in the labrum, and it's going to light up.
Yeah.
So imagine, it's like in your kitchen floor, your kid drops a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
Gets in the grout.
Oh yeah.
And it sticks out. Now it's dark, not bright, but it's the same concept.
That's interesting. And can teams and team doctors and physicians predict? So say like if it comes down to 2 prospects, one has a very small tear, one has a little bit bigger tear, you can predict, okay, well, he's going to be okay for potentially based on pitch count and all that, or in NFL, how many, carries and stuff, how long, that they'll be able to go. Because the reason why I ask you that is because you hear stories of like there's a defensive back corner that I played against, but he played for the Vikings, and I played against him when he was at the Patriots. His name was Jimmy Hitchcock. Now I was on defense. I just knew who he was. Like, he had torn like 3 ligaments in his knees, and he just never got surgery, but he was fine. He played 10 plus years, was a very productive player. How does that like weigh into when they're making those decisions and what your evaluation is? Because say you're just born with a deficiency in some sort of joint. You say, okay, well, hey, you've played this long, say in college, and I'm going into the pros like tonight, and he hasn't missed a practice. It hasn't affected his, strength, all the strength training or his strength testing they do. And this is how much longer I think the joint can last before you're possibly on the hook.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd love to be in the room to hear those conversations.
Right.
But it's like buying a used car.
Yeah.
You scour it, kick a tire, check the mileage, and you just assume that the more wear it's had on it, the less miles it's got left.
Yeah.
But like you say, some people can power through it. I wonder sometimes if it's just a negotiating tactic, because every pro athlete's going to have some wear and tear.
Yeah.
And well, it wasn't me, it was my professors when I was in residency, and they were the ones assigned to reading these things, but they were very, very careful about mentioning anything that could cost this athlete millions of dollars.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting just because of, I think the way that the NFL has changed, they're just looking to get through your first contract. They're not worried about, unless you're picking like a Peyton Manning or somebody like that, you're okay. This guy's going to be around for 3 or 4 years, but you got guys that, like, I always think about Dan Marino and him coming out. Now, granted, he had some off the field stuff, but I played against Dan Marino. And I know one of the things coming out of Pittsburgh was the state of, like, his right leg. It was kind of something he was born with, but then obviously they thought, can it affect his play? Well, he ends up going to be one of the best of all time because he's tough as nails and he'll play through injuries. But then you got some prospects where they're like, oh, now you're off the board. We're not going to, you didn't pass the medical. So it's, I think, let me ask you this. I remember going out on a free agent visit to Houston. And it was actually weird because then they ended up trading for me. So I was kind of tendered and they, go down there. And I was talking to my agent because I'd never had missed a practice at Nebraska, never missed a game, obviously, never missed a practice at Buffalo unless it was Veteran Day or production, based. It wasn't anything to do with injuries. So, you hear, I think one of my other teammates went somewhere and he's like, oh, they kind of red flagged me on the physical. And I'm like, how? We both have never missed, and he had a little bit of shoulder issue. And I remember talking to my agent. He was like, they'll pass you if they want to. They'll fail you if they want you to. And I never forgot that. And is that a little bit of what you experienced was like the physicals where it's like, okay, if we like him enough, we'll deal with that. If we don't, then we'll make sure that he doesn't pass the physical.
I wasn't in the decision room, but that's why my professor was really careful, because if somebody's right there on the fence, they're pretty good, but if you got two guys that are both running a 4.4, and one's got a little signal in his medial meniscus, they're probably going to go with the other guy. I think that's probably how that goes, unless a guy's just like Rudy.
It doesn't pass the eye test or something like that. Yeah. So another thing I wanted to ask you about, and I know we've asked you about before, is meniscus injuries and the difference in severity, because it seems to me, especially because we watch a lot of NBA and stuff, and obviously it's more prevalent just because they're running and jumping all the time. It seems like the meniscus, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a little bit more tricky than what people give it credit for. Is that true?
I'll grant you that.
Yeah. I mean, right? It's just because normally you think, like, if you have a big injury, then they like, okay, this is the result of it. But I've seen more guys, and is that more of a rehab problem? Like you haven't attacked your rehab, or is it like the body just isn't responding and the meniscus injury becomes a little bit nagging?
Meniscus, it's tricky because we're talking about blood flow. There's not a lot of blood flow to the meniscus. So it heals slowly, if at all. And that's just the way it is. It's mostly collagen. It doesn't require a lot of nutrients to survive. It doesn't require hardly any oxygen to survive. It's just a little cushion. It's really small, and the tiniest little tear can cause a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And the pain you can play through. It's when the tear becomes a mechanical problem, where it's like just a gasket. When that thing isn't supporting the bone, or sometimes it can fold over, and you have like a bucket handle meniscal tear. You may have heard that term. Now the joint can't even move, or it has a snapping effect, and that's when it gets too severe to even play through. But yeah, they can be real painful. You can have it. I'm sure a lot of listeners out there have a meniscal tear and don't even know it because they're not doing shuttle runs. They're not stopping and starting and putting a lot of lateral stress. It's mostly just what we call axial, from head to toe stress, and it can handle that just fine. But when you start sliding your knee, that's when it kind of opens up those tears, causes a lot of pain.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to ask you about, I know that I texted you about it, and what people don't really realize, and I come to realize it, and I have some issues, is how a lower extremity injury, so just say, let's say, you know, I guess you can go hip down or knee down, can cause issues in your upper extremity, like in your disc in your back. And is that just based on your gait, or you favor one leg or the other? Or is it like, okay, your body is messed up and then it just sends everything into shock?
No, it's the first thing you mentioned. I've had this happen. I twisted my foot and, you know, kind of hobbling along. And about a week later, I started getting pain in my left hip. I just saw a patient the other day. I did a pain injection in her hip, and she had the same thing. She injured her opposite knee. And so you've been walking the same for most of your life, you know, and it's pretty amazing how our body, the muscle memory that we've talked about before, how we just remember when we walk the same. People talk about Rory McIlroy's gait.
Yeah.
You know, the way he walks. It's just the way he's always done it. So when you change that, now you're changing the way every bone rubs together. And that goes all the way up your spine, like you mentioned.
Right.
So any new motion that wasn't there before is going to cause a little inflammation. That inflammation is going to cause pain. It may go away with time. But yeah, and it's really common to have that, you know, about a week to 4 weeks out from an injury of the lower extremity, like you mentioned.
Right. Yeah, and people always used to think. I remember when I first hurt my calf or my ankle, I was like, I knew my calf was weak, but I felt like, okay, the calf which naturally, you know, you're in a boot and cast for 6 months. The left one, you know, my left one was just going to be take a little while. Well, it was my right one. But then when I got the training camp, I was like, hey, this is supposed to be the good wheel, and that was blown out, you know. And so it was that's well. But then it led to some other stuff. I always wanted to ask you that, just because, you know, obviously, you know, a big thing is to try to keep moving, but if you don't have your base being able to move, it can really cause some issues in other parts of your body.
Yep.
Yeah. I know you guys got a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, we always going to continue to highlight. I think it's October 11th, right? Is your breast cancer awareness walk?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And second annual. What else is going on at AMI that we haven't covered that you guys are doing over there?
We're always growing and progressing. We just got a new MRI. So we're really excited about that, latest and greatest technology. So that's going to be good. We'll have 4 machines functioning there. Have I ever told you how an MRI works? It's the most fascinating technology I've ever.
I know it's loud.
It's like a bad dubstep concert.
Yeah. But you guys have a great playlist, though.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So before we let you go, tell us how an MRI works.
So your body is a radio, and we tune into the frequency of your body, and I mean that literally. So right now, you know, your body's mostly water, and that's H2O. That's 2 hydrogens and an oxygen. We tune into the frequency of the hydrogen atom. Every hydrogen molecule is spinning on its axis like the globe spins, and that creates a magnetic pole. And right now, all those magnets are oriented in different directions, so they cancel each other out. But the reason why you go into a large magnet, MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging, that large magnet is going to straighten all those compass needles out, all those hydrogen ions, just like when you, as a kid, you play with a compass and a magnet.
Right.
And then once they're all aligned, you just send a little radio pulse to the body, and it's gonna move all those magnets.
Yeah.
And the way they shake sends out a radio signal, and we pick up on that signal, and it creates an image. And it's the same thing that's happening as we're sitting here broadcasting. There's a metal pole in the sky with an electron vibrating at 93.7 million cycles per second.
Yeah.
And that creates a radio wave. We do the same thing in your body.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Yeah. That's great information, because that bad boy is loud, man.
It is loud.
But I think once and I think really for me is just the enclosure. But it just depends on, you know, what you're getting taken care of. So I've been all the way in there. But, you know, I will tell you, I've been to different, I could tell you this. When I went from Houston to Dallas and had to get one, it was horrible. It was a horrible playlist. You know, they didn't even ask. I think they put on like George Strait. And I was
on the headphones.
Yeah, on the headphones.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are always good because you guys ask. I think I've been over there so much. I think they know what I like. But that's awesome, man. That's actually pretty cool to know. And next one I get, I'll be thinking like, you know what, I'm vibing in here. So
you are.
Yeah.
You are.
I like you. Always think a lot of hollow in there, man. I'm not too smart, but anyways, appreciate you stopping in, giving us some knowledge. We'll obviously, keep Gilbert Arenas' son in prayers, but obviously the insight on what he's going through and potentially what he can come out of, along with some other things, is Dr. Finn, AMI, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Does a great job along with the crew over there, taking good care of me and then everybody else in Lincoln. This is Old School, Jay Foreman, Austin Norman. Quick break and we'll be right back.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Load up on meat and more this spring at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese, with great selections of T-bones, tomahawks, ribeyes, filet mignon, brisket, sirloin, and so much more. The Mercado has locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, where you can have $2 draft beer every Thursday night from 4 to 8 p.m. and half-price espresso drinks on Fridays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town. At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we strive to provide you with the right coverages for all your insurance needs by taking the time to meet with you and review what coverages best fit your needs. So whether you're in the market for home, auto, farm, business, life, or a combination of any of these coverages, we can help with making sure you, your family, or your business have the right coverage based on your individual needs. If you would like to review your insurance needs, please contact Ben Spurt with Farm Bureau Financial Services at 402-217-9945 or through email at ben.spurt@fbfs.com.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
The NFL Draft starts tonight, and the best place to watch it in Lincoln is at Liquid Asset Sports Bar and Grill at 27th and Jamie Lane. Watch all the picks on any of their 30 TVs while enjoying a beer from one of their 23 taps or high-end bourbon and spirits. Try their delicious wings or handheld sandwiches like the Turkey Melt, Liquid Gold Hamburger, or the brand new Chocolate Chip Cookie Skillet for dessert. There's only one place to watch the NFL Draft in Lincoln. That's Liquid Asset Sports Bar and Grill at 2755 Jamie Lane.
Cinco de Mayo is May 5th, but the party starts early this year at Tipsy Tina's Taco Cantina with their street festival on Saturday, May 3rd. Come down to 8th and Q starting at 1 p.m. on May 3rd and see llamas from Sweet and Sassy's Llama Farm until 4 p.m. and enjoy face painting and balloon animals with Miss Shades at 2 p.m. DJ Wyatt will entertain from 6 to 10:30 p.m. There will be drinks, food, and giveaways, and best of all, no cover charge. It's the early Cinco de Mayo Street Festival with Tipsy Tina's Taco Cantina, Saturday, May 3rd, beginning at 1 p.m. at 8th and Q in the Haymarket.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road, just south of 14th and Highway 2.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What up, we're back. Jay Foreman, Austin Orman. Quick segment here before we turn it over to WTF. There's Eric Strickland and Cluster Johnson going from 6 to 7. Then after that, the NFL Draft. So, Austin, it's about, it starts at 7, so in an hour. Now, first rounders, I'd like to be Travis Hunter right now and Cam Ward or Will Campbell or Abdul Carter. You could just sit back and now you just you want to pick and choose where you go versus like the guys at the end end of the first round where you could you possibly have it can go first round. But if things don't go right, you gotta wait till tomorrow.
Here's the real question, Jay. Who sacks Cam Ward more next year? Will Anderson Jr. or Laiatu Latu?
Oh, Will Anderson. He's working.
Come on, it's Latu.
He's working.
Latu
He's working out with Myles Garrett.
Yeah, but Latu's just better.
He ain't done that. He's injury prone. He's a guy that
Injury prone.
He's a guy. He's
injury prone.
Latu is.
He got cleared with his neck thing. He's fine.
He was fine to get drafted by the Colts, but not.
It's funny because the real answer is DeForest Buckner, but
to be honest with you, the Colts, if the defensive line, with the guy from Michigan,
Kwity
Paye, and those two, that's one of the best.
Grover Stewart,
in the NFL,
if they play up to it,
they just got to be healthy. And DeForest Buckner is a great leader, so, but unfortunately, for him, Houston's a little bit better. But we'll see tonight, man. It's gonna be. I wish everybody the best of luck, but more importantly, I'd like to see Ty Robinson slide up in there. But more importantly, I think he's gonna go Friday. So we'll see. Enjoy it. WTF is next. Jay Foreman, Austin Orman, Old School. We'll holler at you tomorrow.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Your new Total Wine in Lincoln has the largest selection of wines, spirits, and beers, plus totally low prices and friendly service from our helpful guides. With over 8,000 wines, 4,500 spirits, and 2,500 beers, you're sure to find your favorites and something new. You can even order delivery, in-store, or curbside pickup. Find what you love what you find. Only at Total Wine and More. Now open in Lincoln next to Gateway Mall.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the